I'm depressed because of this, or I look at the people on the screen and I say, oh, my love ended this way, or so, I start to feel sorry for myself. I'm not identifying.
Yeah,
I can just have feelings coming and going without identifying with anything,
right.
and yet fully feel them.
So you can really feel the feelings without identifying.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I mean, it's like on some level, though, there seems like there's some identification with the person who's suffering uh, because of the circumstances that they're in, and you can relate to that. But on the other hand, it seems so real what they're going through, but yet it isn't. I mean, it's just a story.
Hmm.
So, but it does evoke. It seems to me you're getting into the power of art. That art really shows us. It's supposed to be a mirror, the way Aristotle originally defined it as a mirror of life, and that's what's the teaching function of art is to be able to see uh, something about how life unfolds and feeling the feelings and having that experience, even though it isn't actually, uh, it isn't actually real, and it's also not related to the truth of your being.
Yeah, you just don't identify. And
Yeah,
yet you can feel fully in the moment.
yeah,
I have watched TV before where, there's some really sad stuff happens, and a character that you're following dies or something like that. And
yeah,
an emotional sense comes. This is the body. And you're feeling this feeling. But you don't have to say, oh, I'm feeling this feeling because of this, or anything like that. You're using this body as like taking the temperature basically of the air. It's the same kind of thing. This feeling is coming in, you feel it, and it goes.
right.
And what you're speaking about, you can watch this Les Miserables and sit there and be like, wow, that's really horrible, or I can feel for these people or whatever. And then it leaves. You get up and go outside. You could go shopping and it would be no more thought in your mind. And this is actually good training for your mind, because this is the reality.
Yeah,
All the things that are going on for Kathleen is just one big show.
yeah,
And you are the formlessness that's using form as Kathleen to move about, but nothing's actually ever happening to you. You're holding the body form, but you're not Kathleen. So you can view your life in the same way that you're viewing the television, because it is literally the same.
yeah. It's a story, but I don't know. I think where I get hung up is in the moral aspect of it. There's a part of me that's like very concerned about doing the right thing and of not letting other people down and of not um, being found, called up short, or there seems to be. But I think that therein lies the difficulty of the identification because,
Yeah, that's the self-consciousness.
yeah,
You're limiting the universal consciousness to this limited small form that's feeling these things and saying, oh, how do I react? And that's why I was mentioning holding in presence.
right,
Again, just like the sunglasses. When you start to feel moral, or you have to do the next right thing or whatever, view the world through the lens of presence.
right,
Hold on to the awareness of the presence while you're acting. Because all actions are spontaneous actions. It's just the mind that's taking credit for it after it's occurred. So you don't need to figure all this out.
yeah,
The main thing is to just hold the sense of presence, hold the awareness of the sense of presence, hold the awareness of awareness, the consciousness of consciousness, and just be there. And then yet speaking and listening and all these activities, they absolutely are happening. If it happens to be wrong as you're trying it, remember Master said, take one step and he takes the next step. Let's say as you really believe, okay, I'm focused on awareness of presence, and I say something and I say, wow, that probably wasn't good what I just said, or somebody reacts, then I keep my awareness of presence and apologize and move on.
Yeah.
You know, like Maharaj says, you don't take any touch of anything.
Yeah.
Keep your awareness on the sense of presence. Oh, yes. When I'm listening to beautiful music, I keep my awareness on that that's listening or providing the opportunity to listen. And this awareness of listening is still enjoying the music, but is remaining in a little bit deeper sense. The periscope that's poking out, through the ocean water and looks around, same. The awareness is deep and it's looking out through these eyes and it's seeing. Now, absolutely everything you're seeing is illusion. So it doesn't require a lot of mentation of what I'm seeing. You just have the awareness of seeing. And seeings pass before the seer, but you know that that's projected from your spontaneous presence. You just remain. And every time you think that you're going out, you just bring your attention back to the awareness of the sense of presence. Oh, yes. Because presence is where everything's arising. So I'm just going to hold this sense of presence. Just die, just die. Anything that tries to cover I, just die, just die. No, 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 no. Just die, just die. And then allow, just like when you're diving deep into the ocean, and there could be a tsunami up on top of the ocean, and deeper in the ocean, there's not a movement, absolute stillness. And that's how your everyday movements, everyday things are happening, because there's awareness of the sense of presence in which is providing the power to act, in providing the power to move. Just sitting quietly with yourself and breathing, and then concentrating on who's this that's concentrating on breathing, this center of concentration. Breathing in, breathing out. Who's that? And then you just know, okay, I remain here. I'm observing breathing, but I'm observing breathing from a deeper space, from where breathing is being observed, from this observer, this formless observer that somehow started to believe itself informed because of identification with the body, but is always and always will be formless.
Yeah, just having that perspective, or the distance in a way, but the distance doesn't prevent you from totally experiencing what's here.
No.
On any level.
Well, because this inner you that you are, this formlessness, this awareness of presence, it doesn't actually experience anything. Therefore, there's no pulling back or drawing back in an experience, because that source, that place in you that is there continuously, spontaneously, and your awareness draws back to the sense of presence, then you know you're not actually experiencing these experiences. So then you don't have to hold back and say, oh, this experience probably, this I can't do, or this I won't do, or whatever. It gives you the spontaneous freedom to act without thinking in the moment, because you're aware of the presence on which all of this is arising. And the truest, highest truth is that the world is projected from that place, that your awareness is of the sense of presence. That's where the world is projected. So the more you remain there, constantly bringing yourself back to this awareness of a sense of presence, all these things that are appearing on presence, they're reflecting. Like Master said, these are the reflections, the spontaneous reflections coming from that selfless self that you are. This formlessness that's using form, the one that's providing the seeing, the one that's providing the listening, the one that's providing the speaking, but has nothing to do with any of those things. Just there, that awareness of the speaker, that awareness of the listener, that awareness of the seer, who's not actually experiencing or doing anything. The body form in which you're holding is experiencing because it's moving around. But that you are is not experiencing, nor is it moving.
Yeah, but I guess what I don't see is, like when you're like going back to the analogy of watching something, sad, the character dies or something, and there's sadness. So who's experiencing the sadness?
Well, you. You're
Well,
using this body as an instrument with which to experience sadness. The
yeah.
you that you are can't experience anything because you're formless. And no formless something can experience anything unless it pours itself into something, so to speak. It pours itself, you, the selfless self, pours into body form, and then an experience is occurring. Of course, this experience is not touching you. It's just touching the instrument that you're using to experience this experience.
Okay. When you say you in that sense, it means the character.
You, the selfless self, this is the formlessness. Your formlessness is using form, providing the power for the body, providing the movements, providing all the show, the whole scenery, everything, just as in a dream. You, the dreamer, laying down and projecting an entire dream world, and you're in that dream, believing yourself to be a character. But
Right.
you, the laying down dreamer, is providing for the sun, the moon, the stars, the movements, all the people, all the conversations that are going on,
Right.
everything.
Right.
And you're using those instruments to, quote, experience this dream. But you, the dreamer, are not actually experiencing the dream because your form is a formless consciousness. It's a bubble of illusion that's occurring. So you're not actually experiencing anything. No experience is touching you. It's all through the form. And just the same as the consciousness that's laying down and projecting the dream world is holding the body that's laying down, projecting the dream world. That body that's laying down, projecting a dream world is the same consciousness that is projecting the dream world.
So if you're, let's say, I like the analogy of the guy with the astronomer. He's looking through the telescope. The telescope isn't seeing anything. It's the astronomer. So if the telescope could feel something, then that would be the telescope experiencing it, not the observer through the. I mean, it's
correct. The telescope would be passing a feeling on, but the observer would not be touched. If what you're saying, like, it's like the feelers. This body is basically an instrument for you to peek inside of the consciousness that is created from your spontaneous presence. And you're able to be here. But in reality, nothing's touching you. That's why Maharaj says the ultimate is no experience, no experiencer. That's why all experience you can discard. You don't have to get hung up in the experience. Whether it be good experience or bad experience, you don't have to be hung up in it, because the true you, the selfless self, is not experiencing anything.
Yeah.
No experience can touch the formless you because you're formless.
Right.
You know, think about the space in the room. You can throw a ball through the space in the room and the space is not affected. You could light a fire and the walls could come down in the fire and the space is not affected. Why? Because the space is formlessness. It cannot be affected by form. This formless you that you are, and that's why if you're aware of the sense of presence, then you know, okay, just this presence, just I, cleaning it with mantra. I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain the body. Just awareness of the sense of presence is here. And this is happening, but it's not happening to me. It's happening through me, sort of, in a way, because this body I'm using to experience this. If you go back to the telescope, you're looking out and you're seeing all of that. If the lens cracks, it will affect the view, but not from the person who's viewing. You see, just like this telescope, if you elongate it or whatever, all these things, the seer is not changing.
Right.
The vision is changing, the movement may be changing, different things may be seen, and different parts of the sky may be seen, but that observer that's looking through the telescope or this body that's used as an instrument to peek inside the consciousness is the same. The lens cracks and the one that's seeing is not actually affected. It cannot be affected. This formless you are, this just I, the true you, the selfless self, that's all the beings on this whole entire whatever you want to call it, this show, like we were talking, all the beings and the characters that you're meeting in this show are the selfless self that is formless, acting through form, providing the power, the lights, the scenery, the show, all the movements, all the speaking, all the listening, everything. Because, and you know this because once you touch this kind of aware of the sense of presence, the awareness of this sense of presence appeared to you. That is the observer through the telescope. And now, oh, just die. Everything's appearing on presence. And therefore, if I remain with my selfless self, formlessly aware, then there's nothing. Nothing can touch you. How? Yeah. And see, that's then, like Nisargadatta Maharaj says, then that you are, worship this consciousness, this sense of presence as God, as the all and everything, and know that it's not just you feeling this sense of presence in a body as an individual. This sense of presence is experiencing itself in a particular body form, but is everywhere. All the bodies every body has the capability of experiencing the sense of presence because presence is in all beings, in all everything. Right. Not only is in, but out. All there, even in and out doesn't make sense anymore, because that's when Maharaj says the walls come down and presence is everywhere. Right. There's no separation. When this body falls, there's no separation. When this body is here, there's still no separation. It's just the space in a pot and the space outside a pot. Which space is whose? Is this the pot's space? I close the lid and I say, oh, this is the pot space because I've taken ownership, or I've given ownership to the space of a pot.
Right.
But there's no transfer of ownership. The space certainly doesn't know that it's in the pot and it's pot space rather than kitchen space. It doesn't know this. And just like the space in you and the space in the room, the presence is in every being. Once you know this sense of presence and you remain there, and you know the presence is formless, it's the background of every experience.
Yeah.
It's the awareness of the sense of presence.
So whatever happens on the relative level, is really related to the ego or the body, because those things, the concern about what the character does or doesn't do is all based on the body identification.
That's correct. Which you are not a body.
No.
And when you know yourself as the sense of presence that is not a body, that's everything, right, then that ego sense, which is the sense of separation, is gone, because this mind can no longer think about you and your formlessness. The mind is only coming along with the mind-ego intellect, coming along with the body, as Maharaj says, that's limiting you to a form, and you're thinking and having thoughts about the form that you're believing yourself to be.
Right.
When you know yourself as formless and in every being, then thoughts are like, about what? How can you think about your formlessness?
Right. It's like if you're identified with the actor, if you're King Lear, let's say, and you're worried about your daughters, that's all part of the play. And the actor playing it knows that his daughters are fine. They're, in college somewhere. Exactly.
But even just the awareness of the sense of presence, it burns off everything.
Yeah.
Nisargadatta Maharaj says, remain with that I am, that you are. I am that. Remain with just I, just I. It burns everything. There's nothing for you to do.
Yeah.
Your awareness is on presence. You're aware of the sense of presence. And everything's appearing on presence because presence is formless. And this awareness of this sense of presence is, of course, formless because this sense of presence appeared to that formlessness that you are, this nothingness. You're all of everything, and suddenly there's a stirring, and then there's an awareness of a sense of presence, which then projects the entire world. That's fine, and you can move about in this world that's illusion, knowing that you're just aware of the sense of presence, and all these things are appearing there, including this body. This body is But the thing is, you don't say that this formless awareness has attached to this body. No, it's using this body.
Right.
And there's an awareness of hearing. There's an awareness of seeing. There's an awareness of speaking. There's an awareness of movement. But that awareness is formless. And this presence has projected this entire world. And as, like Maharaj says, as you remain aware of the sense of presence, just I, then you will see how this world kind of interacts with you because it's coming from you. Your ideas, beliefs, and concepts that you may be holding will project the world and the way you're seeing. But you're the seer, not what's being seen.
Right.
And you just remain there. That's why you can watch very sad movies and you feel the sadness, but you're aware that there's sadness.
Yeah.
And aware of sadness is actually more deeply than trying to just feel sadness as if you're a body form experiencing sadness. You're aware of sadness. It's here. It's full. You're not covering it over with mind thoughts and all this. You're just aware of sadness.
Yeah, actually, it's the resistance to the sadness that creates more of it. It's what I mean, from the psychological point of view, if anything you resist persists. So if there's a sense of like, oh, it's me, I'm suffering, then there's like, how do I get rid of this? And that's, you know, that's like building on the me, the me who's sad, who has to get rid of it because
Absolutely.
it doesn't like it. But if there's total recognition that it isn't me, then you can kind of, it can come and go without there being a huge amount of processing going on that, you know.
With no processing, because there isn't a you to process.
I know, that's even more. So that, yeah.
You're just aware of sadness. Here's the sadness and it's going. Just like you're aware a stove is hot. You don't have to think about all this kind of stuff. If you were to put your hand on a stove, you would have the sudden awareness that the stove is hot. A spontaneous reaction would be to pull away. But you don't have to think about it. Unless you sit there and say, oh, I'm so dumb. Why did I do this? But that's not it. It's just formlessness in the moment. You put your hand on the stove. Whoa, hot.
Yeah.
Spontaneous responses, take it away. No thought process was needed. And that's to pick up the water, drink it, put it down. Same with the sadness on the television. You can be totally into it, turn it off, walk away, and it's gone. But you got to fully experience it because you're the awareness of the sadness rather than someone being sad.
Yeah, and there's no resistance there because there's nothing to resist in a sense. The resistance only comes in when there's an identification of and a rejection of the experience as something I don't want, you know,
Right.
as a me, you know.
And that I is totally dissolved because how, you know, the formless sense of awareness, this presence, the awareness of the sense of presence, totally formless. There's no place for I to rest. The space in the room that is using this body form to communicate and provide this doesn't have any place to rest I, unless there's an identification with the body that I am this. But I is just I is everything. When I is spoken, it's the space, the presence speaking I. And even the presence isn't speaking I. The awareness using the form through the projected presence is saying I. And that's where the confusion comes in. I say I, and I believe I is I.
Yeah.
But I is everything.
Yeah, I is the space in the room, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And once I know there's space in the room, the only thing that's left for me to do is know that, well, that's myself, and this is not. This is an object occurring inside myself, and I was confused for a time because I thought that this object was me that was sensing this space. But in reality, this space is myself, and this object is in that space, and this space is using this object for a time.
Right.
And there's no identification. How can the space be identified? There's no way it can identify. It's an instrument being used in the moment, spontaneously. And that's the subtle, this sense of presence is so subtle, and yet you know this sense of presence. You can't be anything that's known, but you're the knower of all that's known because you have this formless presence that you know, that has appeared to something. If you weren't there, then presence could not have appeared to you.
Yeah, well, that's like, I guess, when there's no differentiation, like say you're a baby or something, that they have no idea of them versus something else. They're just formless in a way, awareness. They're there, and they're having, things are they're observing things, but they're not. They don't have the awareness of awareness, which, and that strikes me as what happens when we lose the body, because there's awareness but no awareness of awareness.
There won't be anything other than you to know.
Yeah.
You leave the body and you're back to your absolute state where you were prior to being this.
Right. It's almost like the baby state, which is there's awareness but no one aware of awareness.
Yet, well, there's nothing, there's no separation. There's just awareness of all the things that are appearing, but no sense that they're appearing to you. There's no limited body form yet.
Yeah.
Until you start to identify, this is me, this is you, I'm an object, these are objects, and then I have the egoistic sense that I want to acquire objects, whether they be toys or food or something, but I understand that there are objects that need to be acquired.
Yeah.
And I have to be an object to desire the attainment of other objects.
Right. You have to take yourself first as an object who needs another object.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the formlessness, it's like, okay, the space in the room is using this body. There are objects in this room that can also be used, so to speak, moved about. Drink can be drank or whatever, but there's nothing needed. There's like, everything's inside yourself. So you, and you're just awareness of the sense of presence. Just die. Anytime it goes out. And then, like Nisargadatta Maharaj says, this I you worship as the absolute, as God. Because there is no God except your selfless self.
Right.
Remember, Ramakant Maharaj says, except your selfless self, there's no God, no Brahman, no Paramatman, no master, nothing is there.
Right.
So this sense of presence that you're sensing, you're the knower of the sense of presence, that's it. There is nothing else.
Yeah.
There's not like this and then God, or this and God. No, this is all there is, and you are that.
Yeah, there'd be separation if there was God and you.
Exactly. You are that.
Yeah. I know, that's it's just something to really, you just have to keep on doing the mantra and things like hammering away, because there's been so much hammering in the other direction.
Well, and like I said, if you abide with the sense of presence, if you just remain there in all your activities, and you begin to really consciously think, am I aware of presence in this moment? Okay, I just go back to the awareness of presence. I can still speak. I can still go shopping. I can still drive my car. But I'm in the awareness of presence all the time.
Yeah.
And when I'm not, I just bring myself back. Oh, awareness of presence. And then I just know that this sense of presence that I'm sensing is all there is. The entire world is appearing on that. So anyone I may be having a problem with, or anybody I may be enjoying being with, is all projected on that spontaneous presence. Therefore, I remain aware of the sense of presence. And that's all I have to really look. Like sunglasses, you go outside, if you wear pink glasses, you see everything in pink. You wear blue glasses, you see everything in blue. You observe that you are aware of the sense of presence, and you're seeing everything as presence.
Yeah, that's a more, I like to look at it as accurate approach. I look at it in terms of accuracy, not in terms of a philosophy or belief, or it's just like, okay, what's accurate?
Yeah, well, and the more you remain this way, you see. And it will dawn on you suddenly, this presence is all there is. And
Yeah.
I am not body. I was not body. I'm not going to remain the body. This presence is using all the bodies. It's in everything. It's providing the movement. Like Maharaj gave the example, the electricity with the light and the refrigerator and the microwave and all that. It's providing, but it's all those things.
Yeah.
And so you just know there's nothing except your selfless self. There is no God, no Brahman, no Paramatman, no master. Nothing is there. And then it dawns like, well, it's all, how can you have any animosity or any envy or any jealousy or any upsetness at another person, or thinking that you need to correct another person, or that anything needs correcting, because it's all your own self. It's all arising from you, and you just remain. Just die, aware of the sense of presence. And that's it. Seeing everything appearing on spontaneous presence, including this body, because you're the seer, this formlessness using form that's using and seeing. You're providing the power to see.
Yeah. You know, it struck me as there's also no loneliness, because what what would you be lonely for?
Yeah, because there's no separate you.
Yeah.
Once you know the spontaneous conviction, oh, so that I am that, then who, how? There's no longer a you that's separate. It's you as presence. You are the totality. You are the source of the entire world.
Mm. Yeah. There's, I think one other teacher said there are 7 billion worlds.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there's only one consciousness. It looks, you know, I mean, we can all agree there's a red light and a green light, because the illusion wouldn't work if everybody saw a different color. But there's some continuity, but there are, you know, individual worlds that are projected by the individual thoughts.
And that's why once there's no you, no thoughts, there's no world.
Yeah.
There is no, yes, there's world in that you see. Like you said, I see a green light, you see a green light.
Right.
But if I'm not here, it's just a green light, and I'm just going and doing my thing. I'm not thinking, I'm not moving about. There's nothing. There's no like structure of time, because I'm not an object.
Yeah.
How can I, yes, I'm using a body form, but there's no mentation here that says you're a body, you're moving around. It's like your eyes are space in space. So you're outside of time, except you check a watch. Okay, that's a material thing, but you're formless. So you're not like, oh, I'm running late. Oh, I'm doing this. You're just doing spontaneous actions in the moment and leaving them. Spontaneous actions in the moment and leaving them. And if something's good, somebody comes and says, oh, good job. Oh, okay, thank you, thank you. Somebody says, oh, bad job. You're like, oh, okay. But you know that you're the formlessness that's using body form, that these functions are occurring, but they're just functioning in the totality. Because you, the formlessness, can't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I know yeah, that's true. Like that's what apparently Jesus said, you know, to Pilate. You know, he said something about, well, if you're a king, how come you can't get out of this? And he said, well, I of myself have no power. You know, it's the Father that, you know, he
Exactly.
has the Father. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're just, you know, the space in the room is using this body form to do whatever it needs to do. Now, of course, like Maharaj says, there is the, you know, you don't go out and just start killing people or doing, you know, stupid, crazy stuff, stealing because, oh, it's illusory world and this and that. No, this is not coming because there's nothing. You're formless. So you're not trying to gain anything or get anything or con anybody. It's all you. And a good thought comes in and it's useful. Wow, I'm hungry. I think I'll go make something to eat. That's a thought, but it's the same as writing in your calendar, I need to be at such and such a place at 8 a.m.
Right.
There's no need to think about it. It's just, oh, a thought comes, I'm hungry. But if a thought comes, wow, you know, I really hate my job. It's too tough. It's too this. That's not a useful thought. So as soon as it comes in, oh, I'm aware of this. As a matter of fact, this thought is a form that's appearing on my formlessness, on my formless presence. Goodbye. Whew, don't need this thought.
Yeah.
No need to activate it because it's nothing about me.
Right.
And truly, after a while, I don't know what happens to the mind, honestly, you know, as far as flow of thoughts or things like that. But you literally, because you can't think about nothing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's possible. You know, if you're thinking about nothing. If you're actually going to have a thought, you have to put like a form into action. I think Maharaj says, thought comes, goes to intellect. Intellect makes a decision and implements it through ego. It's a steady flow, but there's no thought. It's not you're thoughtless.
Yeah. Well, like you say, you don't need that to live in this particular, you know, level. It's not as necessary as people think it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to, like Maharaj says, you have to have courage.
Yeah.
Courage to stop believing that, oh, if I were to be thoughtless, I might not go to the grocery store, you know, or I might not pay my bills. I'd be like a senile person in the corner, just mumbling and drooling.
Yeah.
But it's not like that.
Yeah.
And that's where mantra comes in, because when you're using mantra, constantly concentrating on mantra, the invisible listener, aware of the mantra, just aware. And then you're aware of course, the place where you're aware of mantra as it's naturally going. But you can do all these things, move about, and there's no more mind flow of I'm doing these things. So no experience, no experiencer. And that starts to give you the courage that, okay, if I'm thoughtless, I won't be in the corner mumbling and drooling like a crazy person. I'm still absolutely doing exactly what I was doing before, but there's no sense of doership. Therefore, there's no thoughts about what I'm doing.
And no attachment to the outcome either.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's an important part. Yeah. Well, you know what? Keith is on here. I don't want to.
Yes. Hello, Keith.
Hi. Yeah.
So, I've seen you on there, Keith, and I was wanting to include you in the discussion.
Yes.
Is there anybody else here?
No,
No.
we have people that are absent. Andrew is going back to Sedona. Trish is at the beach, and Sandra is doing errands in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
So it's you and me, and John.
Well, it's been informative, and you know, I'm getting something out of it. So
Oh, good.
the only thing that made remind me of the person who's looking through the telescope. Like you could say he's not affected by what he sees. It just made me think of how sometimes I'm there's a part of me that's impartial to whatever is going on, but that, of course, that's to say that is another reflection on what happens when I'm feeling impartial. But sometimes I just there's something in me that is impartial, and I can sort of recognize that if I think about it, that I'm not always wrapped up in so-called taking the touch. Sometimes, you know, I'm just objective and just not letting everything go by and not getting wrapped up in it. This sort of impartiality is. I was just trying to point that out in myself and recognize what that is.
It's like jumping into a pool, too. If somebody jumps into a pool, all the water and everything is displaced. There's like something going on. But in reality, the water is not affected. It's something that's occurring in the moment and then relaxing. So that's like a spontaneous action. Someone jumps in the pool, boom, the waves and all the bubbles and everything go around them, but all that settles, and it settles very quickly. So a thought comes in that might disturb or whatever, but then it settles very quickly. And that's the spontaneous action. In the moment I take this body form without thinking about taking this body form, a spontaneous action is occurring, and it's finished. Just like jumping in a pool, what you were speaking about, the bubbles and everything are happening, but you can be impartial, so to speak, as the water, because you're not actually, yes, you were displaced for a moment when the bubbles and all that, there was some activity, but you return right back to your awareness, that awareness of the sense of presence. And therefore you don't need to be partial or impartial or anything. It's just something is, some experience has occurred in this moment, something is, and it's finished.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, still, if I'm trying to recognize that which is impartial in me, I'm making a concept out of impartiality. But you also, speaking about the water and settling, and there's also the aspect of myself, say I'm starting to go into the water and it's cold, and then I'm a little bit wondering, what's it gonna feel like if I immerse my whole body? But then you do immerse your whole body, and then it settles. And I was thinking about what does it settle into? What everything settles. Atomic bomb blows off and it eventually settles. Everything settles. But what's it settle?
That's because stillness and silence are like the base. Behind everything is the presence, the formless presence. So all activity will settle down.
It's fascinating.
And what you're saying about whether the water's cold or hot or this or that, that's when that I am somebody else is occurring.
Yeah.
Spontaneously is just, okay, get on the diving board, whoop, jump in. That's it. Wondering whether it's cold or hot or all that kind of stuff, then you're definitely taking the touch of being a separate individual. Now, if you're wondering whether a cup of coffee is hot and you can't drink it really fast, of course, this is a good thought to have, so that you're not damaging this body form that you're using. But just, any kind of thought process, you want to see, okay, even when a thought process comes, just say, okay, who's aware? From where is this awareness coming of this thought process? There are thoughts, I'm aware of these thoughts. So I remain with the source of awareness of these thoughts rather than getting carried away by the surface of these thoughts. And just like we were speaking about, the glasses are a very good thing. You go outside, you put on pink glasses, you see everything in pink. You go outside, you put on blue glasses, you see everything in blue. So see everything through the sense of presence, remaining as the source of seeing, and seeing everything through the sense of presence, knowing that it's all appearing on your spontaneous presence, and you remain with your selfless self. You don't give yourself away.
Yeah, that's sort of a habit we have. It's a bad habit.
Because the attention's going out all the time. And previously, your mind, so to speak, had full reign of your attention. Something's out there. Ooh, let's look at that. Oh, hey, something's over there. Oh, look at that. Oh, something's over there. Look at that. Oh, look at that. And that, and that. Like a little dog, like basically, oh, look, look, look. Oh, look, squirrel. Oh, over here. Oh. And now, no. There's many things that are able to be seen, but I remain with the source of seeing. I remain with the awareness of the seer, not with the seen. I remain with the awareness of the knower. Nothing that is known can be me or can be mine, because I am aware of the knowing, the knowingness in which ignorance and knowledge are appearing. And you're nothing except. That's why if you remain with the sense of presence, it just pulls you in, pulls you in, pulls you in. Nectar of immortality. You sit there, or like they talk about, I was just reading something in the Nisargadatta Maharaj book about the Lord's feet, the Guru's feet, remaining at the Guru's feet. What does that mean? With the sense of presence, you're remaining at the Guru's feet, at the Lord's feet, taking the nectar of immortality. And this nectar is more delicious. This bliss that you're able to use this body form and sense that sense of presence is better than anything that this world has to offer. So when these dangly things start dangling and the attention goes out, your mind will actually start to be trained. I would rather be in this bliss here than chase that might be bliss or might be pain over there. No, I like this. I just remain with the sense of presence. I have the awareness of the sense of presence. And I'm just, oh, that Satchidananda is what it's called. And of course, you're experiencing the Satchidananda, but you, the you that you are, is not experiencing anything. It's using this body as a way to sense this Satchidananda. And the Satchidananda is then more important than any of the other things. It's like, okay, you're in total bliss, and someone says, okay, Kathleen and Keith, would you like the bliss that you're feeling or what's behind door number 2?
So my
You
question,
say, all right, I'm going to remain with the bliss, I think. Okay, the bliss that you're feeling or what's behind door number 2 and door number 3. And see, if you are feeling the bliss, it's natural. It's your own selfless self. You're the fountain of this. And that's why Maharaj says, don't try to chase happiness in exterior things, because you use the power of your attention to take it away from the sense of bliss to go after some material thing that may or may not provide momentary happiness. But you yourself are the source of the happiness. Even these various objects that you're thinking are happiness, the only source of happiness is you. So you're just kind of projecting that this happiness is coming from this object, when in reality, you're the source of the happiness. But then you get confused and say, this object is providing me with happiness. I want another one.
Yeah, there's always more.
Yes. But when you're the source of bliss, when you remain just I, aware of the sense of presence, Satchidananda, bliss, then you're not giving yourself away, and the bliss is constant. There's no up and downs of happiness, because you're in that sense. You're just feeling, oh yes, so that I. And that so that I is in, that presence is in every being creating the entire world. So even when I'm chasing things that appear to be material, I'm just chasing illusions that have appeared in my spontaneous presence, that I have convinced myself using identification that this thing is needed for this body form that I'm believing myself to be.
It's sort of like a trance that we put ourselves in, that, you know, and that the advertising agency is working off of.
Yes. I mean, if you're seeking things from outside, that's the thing. I told you about when I was in India and I went to that jewelry store. I was just beginning to meditate with mantra, and, you know, everything was, but I went into the jewelry store and it was like the gold was screaming to me. It's so inexpensive. Let's get something. Let's get some gold. Come on, get some gold. And I'm like, no. I kept mantra, but I could feel it. My heart started racing. I was like, I want this gold. And I went back and I told Maharaj, I was like, man, it was like a fight, because I really wanted this gold. And he's like, see, as you get closer and closer to your selfless self, this Maya, this illusory world, is going to try harder.
Yeah.
And you, the selfless self, if you remain with yourself, it will be seen that these are illusions and passing, and that even though there's a desire arising, if the desire is not actually put into action, it will dissipate. It will go away.
Yeah.
Both the desire and the desirer are erased slowly and silently and permanently with mantra. And the cool thing was, when somebody else came to the ashram like 3 weeks later, I went back to the gold, absolute peace, nothing. And I was like, ah, yes. And I sat with Tata, I think his name is, and we sat on the chair and I watched another devotee kind of go through the whole thing of, wow, gold is so inexpensive in India. We have to get this. And we were just sitting, and I told Tata, I was like, wow, you know, it's thanks to Maharaj, thanks to the mantra, that just a couple of short weeks ago, it was an intense burning desire that kept rising and rising, and it's finished, it's gone. I would rather sit here just mantra, observing mantra as it's running through this body, than go out for anything else.
I suppose you could say that bliss is natural experience, kind of uninfluenced by imagination, but when you're identified with things being, able to provide you with value or something, it's imagination. It's like one is sort of normally I'm living in an imaginary world, but sometimes I touch on the bliss, which is not really imaginary. It's just there. It is what it is. It's
Correct. And if you keep your focus and your awareness on the sense of presence, then these objects will be seen as nothing.
yeah.
They're illusory layers on your spontaneous presence, but presence is providing you with all the happiness. It's an internal joy. I think Maharaj even talks about selfless self-intoxication. It's an internal, you can't even describe it. Bliss is even too kind of a light word. And it's just there. You're not even experiencing it. It's just the happiness of being happy for the sake of happiness. No other cause, no material cause. It's just your own selfless self, this churning, this nectar of immortality. I think they call it the Amrit, the nectar of immortality, the nectar of bliss, the selfless self remaining at the Guru's feet, because nothing can distract you from yourself. And you can still do all the little things that have to be done in the moment, spontaneous action, but you don't have to give yourself away for anything.
So would the bliss also be considered illusion too, though?
Well, yes, it's because it's a feeling.
Because it comes and goes.
Well, and because it appeared on the spontaneous presence, you had to have a body form to feel this presence. So when you have no body form, there's no feeling, there's no anything. The space in the room is experiencing the joy of just experiencing the sense of existence without existing as something. But when this body form is no more, the space will no longer experience the sense of existence, and yet existence was there, the space was there in which existence has appeared, and then disappears. But while you're in this body form, use it to dip your cup into the nectar of immortality and be selflessly self-intoxicated, completely and totally with your selfless self.
Okay, John.
Yes. Oh, wow. We went over with only 2 people.
We were going to have a short time, but we had a long time.
Indeed. All right. And Keith, I told Kathleen already, but next week I'm not going to be here because I'm going off to Sessions by the Sea.
Okay.
That's an annual little retreat that I go to. So,
Okay. Have a nice
all right.
All right.
Okay.
Everybody enjoy your Labor Day weekend, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right. You too.